welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya master Anne-Marie Young. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And Anne-Marie, we start another week here on the show, and we're starting off in a very light mode. I say that because our guest today is a light language healer. And I'm not even sure what that is. I mean, when you hear that phrase, does that like create a certain image for you?
For me, well, just light and healing together just sounds divine, doesn't it? So
it does.
It's got to be something really good.
So the language has got to be something about how you use the light to do the healing, I would think. It's got to be something along that line, right?
Yeah.
I would think. Okay. So, well, let's find out. So our guest is Brigitta Visser. She's connecting from Spain. She's even in a later time zone than Anne-Marie. I mean, we've got like the late night show going on here. But Brigitta, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me, Walt and Anne-Marie.
Oh, great to have you.
And you got to tell us, so what exactly is a light language healer? What does that mean?
It's like you said, it's very divine, but it's, so light language healing is on a conscience level. You're not going to understand it. I always say it sounds like minion language, right? You don't even understand this little man. But on a soul level, your soul understands it just beautifully. And these are light activation codes. They're healing codes. And that can eradicate anything from physical ailments to, anxiety and any fears you have. It's very, very powerful. I've had it done to me as well. And I was I was blown away, because I had issues with my knee at the time and with my back, and boom, just like that. The next day, it was so much better. I felt so much lighter as well. It's incredibly powerful. So, you have other healing modalities like Reiki, for instance, which is also, it's very different, or spiritual healing is very different, but this is completely like, boom, it just hits you.
Okay, sign me up.
Yeah.
Seriously. I was just telling Anne-Marie before we got started, just before you connected, I was telling her, because she knows I've got an issue with my Achilles and my knee and my right leg, and have had for about the last 6 months or so. And I've been going through physical therapy, making some progress and so forth. And I've tried a couple other things that haven't really worked. If I can find something that would go snap and fix that in one day, like, okay, yeah, sign me up. I'm ready. This is good stuff. I don't even care what it is,
But it's just sometimes, I always say this, whatever ailment we have, it's at the root cause of it all, it's always an emotional issue, regardless of what ailment we have, or pains that we have within our body, because we're energy.
Why is that? I'm very familiar. I mean, seriously, yes. That's like, it's the consistent, isn't that always the theme, Anne-Marie? I mean, it's always like there's some emotion going on in the background, like, oh, here we go again, yeah. We can't seem to get away from this stuff. I mean, come on.
You'd almost like think that we should be getting this sus now. We should know this by now, Walt.
We should, right? Yeah. You would think that the message had gotten through by now, but apparently not.
Hey, but when it comes to light language, I'm happy to give a demo later in the show.
Okay, well, that's cool. But I was interested too by what you said about how it's not something that we really understand on the conscious level. And I wondered if maybe you could expand on that a little bit, because first of all, that would actually match up with my understanding of my own connection with source and so forth. That I don't understand it. I mean, I have learned somewhat to connect to it, but I still don't really get it. So talk about that bit a little bit.
Okay, let me give you one sentence from up there when I do light language. And it's going to sound really funny, but this is how they talk. Right? So that on
what she said. Yeah, what she said.
It does sound a bit minion.
It does.
But you wouldn't understand that. But like I said, your soul, it's your soul that understands it. And, when we are on this earthly plane, we don't use 100% of our brain capacity. That's also a known fact. We use about 3%. And there is so much that we don't know because our awareness on this plane has been dimmed, even though a lot of people are awakening now, which I love seeing that. So that's what I said. Light language on a conscious level, you don't understand it. And you don't need to understand it. It's your soul that understands it. And it's your soul that absorbs the light codes. That's it.
Okay. But isn't there something conversational that goes on here? I don't
Yes.
know on a conscious level, but there's a conversation that goes, there's a communication.
Yeah. Yeah. So I work a lot with the galactic energies like the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Arcturians, even the Elfin Kingdom, and the Archangels, the Ascended Masters. So whoever comes through, sometimes I'll know and sometimes I won't know because I'll just see the light forms, but there are always messages attached to it. And as I do the light language, the healing, and I think that's the same with Reiki. When I started out, you do the healing and then you sometimes get things through and you explain that to the client. And that's the same what I do with light language. So if I get the messages, I'll relate them straight away.
Wow. Okay.
I love it. I'm very humbled by it. Yeah.
I have to say too, this is the first time that because we've had lots of people on the show who have various ways of being able to channel or receive or, transmit messages and that kind of thing. I don't think there's ever been a time where someone came to me with a language that they couldn't even tell me what the language was, other than that it is a light language, and then actually spoke it. And it actually sounded like, how do you even get the sounds out? If this is being, how do you actually turn it into sounds that sound like human sounds? I don't even get that.
When I started doing it, and this is, I think now, nearly 1.5 years ago, it was really like I needed to be pushed off that cliff. And I had a friend of mine, and she's an amazing light language healer in the UK, Siobhan Purcell. And I said, listen, it wants to come out. I said, but it's still stuck. And I did a face-to-face workshop with her, and she pushed me over that edge. And that's exactly what I needed. And then it just started to flow. And It's like with anything, the same with channeling, because I channel as well. It's like riding a bike. You practice it every single day.
Well,
and that's how you learn.
But it's not like riding a bike. I don't even know what the words are.
No, but that's the thing. You don't need to know.
The bicycle, I know where the pedal is. I know where the handlebar is. I know where all that is. The words, like, what? I'm lost.
But I suppose this is where that authentic self comes in, doesn't it, Brigitta? That you mentioned, which is in your book, is because you don't need to know, Walt. You're just literally a suit. It's your It's your soul. It's literally just your being, your connection to source. You are source.
We are, absolutely. I totally agree with that. But it's also about having trust. Oftentimes we allow our ego to sit in the driver's seat. And it's not about that. It's about just being yourself and just having that trust and that faith, and taking it from there. Because what we often do is we have that monkey mind, that analytical mind that often takes over. Like, oh, but am I doing the right thing? Oh, well, what's coming out? Are people going to think I'm crazy? I don't have that anymore.
Oh, you mean the part that we really think we are crazy? Like, yeah, nobody gets to see this part of me. This is the part that I never show to the public because they would throw me into the padded cell and throw away the key. It would be that kind of a thing. Yeah, I get it. But no, seriously. I'm making a lot of fun of this, but in all seriousness, when you were saying those words, whatever they were, immediately afterward, I felt something inside. I can't even describe it well, but it's like there were two streaks of light vertically going through my chest. And I don't know any other way to say it than that. And I still feel it. I still feel that sense there. I don't even know what that means. But
so if you want me to do a demo now for like a minute or so, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
I don't even know what to ask for. So, just kind of take the show over a little bit here. Cause I mean, this is just way outside my range.
But I will always ask this, is there anything that you'd like to focus on?
I think we fix your knee.
Yeah.
That would be like, pain and, we could do pain, and clarity, both of them, if you want.
Clarity, I always love.
Yes.
Because clarity is such a high vibration. I mean, anytime I can get clarity, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and ridding ourselves of pain.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. So
one kind of leads to the other, really.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yes, it does.
Yes.
So what I'm going to ask you to do is just close your eyes and take a very deep breath in. Hold it. And gently breathe out. And just take another very, very deep breath in. Hold it. And breathe out. All right. And I'm going to be bringing through the light codes. And just allow them to gently flow through you. But I will guide you as well. So whatever I will get, I will tell you. So this is for clarity and ridding ourselves of pain and moving forward. Okay. Sukisai mahati ui akatasi miki ini athali makututui medisika. Ui misi ai makatutui makasa ikia. And just allow, as they're saying these light codes, to flow through you. And what they're also doing is surrounding you in a beautiful emerald golden bubble. So siya makaai ki sikita ki kini makata sikita uiki makalaki tikita kataya mahu ikatisi ayu maku uiki ka ayu sakata inikia. I do love the Arturians. Suki isi makati iya maka atikiti maka ushikiti malolo mayu kututu makati aikati maka uyi makati atita. And the Arturians are very healing, so they very much work also on the heart chakra. Sukia mala kitikita anikita sumbikita yapu uikiti maka ushiki ama uiki iyama uiki titi. And they're saying just allow for the light codes to flow through the heart channel. Tu siya malahini kitia isiya pokwe iki iki salalia mahai ki isiya mako iya mahai sekanaya maku tia lahio tu ikinikita tu siya mahikiti iya ma And as the light flows through, allow for the heaviness to dissipate completely. Sikiai maiti ia masalai maiti ka ui ai mahui mi hete ki ia ma siai mahui ai mahui. These are the Star Walker people. Sui mi silai ya kui mi ki isi ya mahui ma ha tuki ia mahui mahia hi na kuyu maha. What they're doing to the both of you, it's almost like smudging around the head and regaining that for clarity. Sukiya makai ya ki iya mahasika iya mahaya ku isike ya mahaya ya wa ki ini ya hatika yu mahatikiti ayawa kui ya dinkini si ala mahi ya ku uhisika huisika la himkia kushiniki and they gently retreat, and it's almost like you're sitting on a cloud and feeling, as they put it, far more enlightened within yourselves. And they say just take another very deep breath in and gently let that go. And whenever you want to open your eyes, whenever you're ready, just open them.
Wow. This is going to be a challenge because you're right. I don't have any way to put words to that. I mean, wow.
How do you feel? I'm buzzing.
Yeah. Well, buzzing is a good way to describe it. For me, it's also, it's a lightness in both senses of the word light. In other words, it's less weighty and it's also brighter. It's both kinds of light. Wow. I normally don't feel any pain when I'm sitting down doing a show like this, so I'll have to wait until later on to find out if anything has shifted. I can tell whether or not, I mean, there's always a certain degree of stiffness in my Achilles or in my calf or whatever, and I can still feel that a little bit, but I'll be really curious to see what happens when I'm walking around afterward. I can hardly, I mean, this is actually one of the few times I can hardly wait till after the show to find out what's going on. But wow. And I can't turn my conscious mind off during all of that. But my conscious mind is listening to the words and not understanding what they are, but listening to the consonants and the vowels and so forth. This is really, really interesting. That's what I kept thinking to myself. Like, and lots of E sounds to it. I love it. And the E sounds felt good. I don't know what you were hearing, Anne-Marie, but I love those sounds.
Did you switch languages?
Yes.
I thought so.
Yes.
I could tell that. I could tell you switched languages.
Wow. What told you?
It was just a completely different. It was like going from French to German.
Okay.
It was just a different language.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Whatever it is, I love it. I feel like it's light as a feather. I feel really, really happy. Like I don't have a problem in the world. And my whole body is buzzing, especially my head. Just all around my head. It's just like, it's lush.
It helps me too, you know. I always get on the high as well. It's that the vibrations are so high.
Very high, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can really feel that. It's amazing.
Okay, I need to know a bit more about what's going on then, so.
So what else can you fill us in on here to help us understand what the heck we're experiencing right now?
So as I was saying, I did get the Arcturians through very briefly. They are very meticulous in their healing when they heal any symptoms. And they talk really fast. And then I had the Star Walker people, the ancient Star Walker people. That's what I call them. They are ancient American Indians, but very, very ancient. And they worked in conjunction, of course, with the stars and the light beings. And I loved working with them. Very, very powerful. But I also work with the Lemurian energies. Not today, but and that's very much like you're splashing in the water. It's very different. They're all very different. I love that.
So literally blowing my mind because I knew that was native. I knew that when you were talking it. I knew it. What's going on? Maybe I was from another planet.
Yep.
Previously.
Okay, so when you're receiving this information and you're sharing, you're vocalizing the words and so forth, and you're getting it from these different sources, are you selecting the sources? Are the sources self-selecting? How is that working?
No, I don't select them. They select it.
Okay. So they kind of work it out between themselves.
Yeah. So depending who the client is, whoever comes through, comes through. And people will ask me, well, how do you know that they're not dark energies? Well, I do know that. That's the same with channeling. People say, well, how do you know they're not dark energies? Well, you know that, and I always do protect myself. Well, you mean that
vibration? That vibration is too high to be a dark energy. Yeah. It really is. I mean, because you feel that. That's what I think when you're talking about the buzzing, Anne-Marie. I think that's what you're referring to. That vibration is so high.
Yeah, it feels like I literally don't feel like I could walk on the floor. I feel like I'd literally be walking on air at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That makes no sense, I know, but
no, it actually does make sense. That actually does make sense, I think. I think that describes the sensation of it. So yes, it does make sense. There's a physical sensation that goes along with this. I don't know how else to describe it. It's high vibration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's very different to traditional healing modalities. And it's something it's up and coming in the UK as well. It's a little bit more known in the US, but I think in a couple of years' time, a lot more people will be doing this.
I've seen not quite a bit. I've seen a lot of people like connect with the Arcadians and Palladians and things like that. And I've heard of the healing. I didn't realize that that's what this was. And now I just having that just a few minutes, want to learn more.
And I don't really know anything about these different groups of beings. Can you kind of give us a little biography on these guys?
Yeah, this is not our normal kind of show, kind of.
Not really, no.
Interesting.
So, I mean, gosh, there's so many. There are so many of them. So the Palladians, I love the Palladians because they have they very much resemble the humanoid features. They're very much about love. Also self-healing. Arcturians are very much about healing, but also about DNA activations. But that's in my case. Everyone who works with them differently. The Syrians, I call those the aquatic star seeds, because there's so many of them. Then I also work with many of the ascended masters, but also the Egyptian deities. And when they come through, it can be very harsh energies.
Really?
It's very, very powerful. But even the archangels, especially Archangel Michael, very, very powerful. And I know when he comes through, totally different toning. And the same with you would know, I call him Lord Sananda, but in a previous incarnation, he was Jesus Christ. And when he comes through, he is, he's hardcore too, but in a good way, because healing, as they say, healing is supposed to, okay, let me put it this way. This is how they put it. Healing should not be soothing in a sense, but healing should eradicate the deep-seated wounds within. That's what it's about. Okay. And when you go for healing, it's great if it's very gentle, but does it get to the root of the issue, so to speak? This light language healing, even though you don't, like I said, you won't understand it, it does go very, very deep. And that's what's really important. I think when I started out with Reiki, in 2009, that was really my saving grace, at the time. And it really, really helped me, even though I needed several sessions. This, however, goes much deeper.
I'm also curious when you're working with a client, somebody's has asked you, okay, work with me, help me to, get to ABC, whatever.
Yep.
Is it usually something where you're like doing it in one session? Is it something that you tend to do over a series of sessions? How does that tend to work?
Yeah. So, for instance, somebody had an immense fear of going into the hospital for surgery, and I had her on the phone actually for like 10 minutes or so, and she called me up several days later, and she's like, "Do you know what?" She's like, "I just went into hospital, not even thinking about it, and that fear was just gone." I've had other people had several sessions whereby, whether it was toxic relationships or they really needed to get that nudge to turn their lives, to turn their lives around, because sometimes we remain in this very stagnant energy in the experience, and it's hard for us to move forward. We're not quite sure how to move forward, even though we want to move forward. And, just to backtrack, as I always say, I'm just a tool in the toolbox. Yeah. I just allow for the energies to use my voice box, and the client will still need to do the work. It's not like, hey, you know what? I'm a fairy godmother and boom, you're better in one go. You still need to do the work. You still need to put the puzzle pieces together in order to move forward with your life. But there have been others that have decluttered like their whole home. And that is like when you declutter your home, you declutter your mind as well. So I've seen different shifts in people, completely different shifts.
Wow.
So how did you find out about this, Brigitta? How did you first come to doing it? Because it's not something you go to school and learn, is it?
No. I mean, I studied many healing modalities, and that's only because, I've been through a lot of trauma, and I really needed to find myself. So for me, and I'll put it in a nutshell for you. So the trauma that I've been through, I mean, I was abused as a kid by a friend of the family. My dad died when I was 14. I was bullied at school because I was so skinny. I used to throw my lunches out. And as I got older, the not eating became a little bit more pronounced. And I think I at the age of, my mom put me on the modeling course, but that kind of went awry because I didn't have any self-confidence. And so when I finished high school, I tried my hand at the modeling, but I didn't get anywhere. I wasn't thick-skinned, and I was assaulted in the industry as well. It's a sleazy industry. It was terrible. Yeah, and I did travel the world. I worked. I bartended. I was a hostess. I did promotional gigs because it doesn't matter where you put me. I was like a chameleon. I always blended in, and I had that attitude of just wanting to work and make my way. But I rolled into a few dysfunctional relationships because I didn't heal. That's why I always say one bit of trauma creates another bit of trauma because you're not healing the hurt within yourselves. And my coping mechanisms were I was working like a maniac. I always say that. I was working crazy hours, and I was not eating because these were things that I could control. And of course, it kept piling up until 2009 when I went through severe trauma because my ex was a crack addict, which I didn't know. So, yep, he landed in bed with the Crips in Holland, and he did want to get better. Yeah, I know. And long story short, he was held for ransom. I helped out the police, and they found him and deported him back to the US. Whilst my mom got me out of Holland in the space of like 2-3 days, and I'd rented a place in the UK. And what happened then is that the leader of the Crips, he called me and he said, if I ever find you, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, if I find your ex, you will never find him again because he'll be dead in a ditch somewhere. That kind of shook me to my core.
Yeah.
And,
It would.
Yeah. And so I downed a whole box of, it was Nurofen, but it's ibuprofen in the States. And, it was kind of a lame attempt at my own life. And so the next day, my mom said to me, Birgitta, why don't you go and see a counselor? And I did. And all the counselor said to me at the end of that, at the top of the hour was, Birgitta, you're strong enough. You'll be fine. And that didn't help me. So that's how I that's how I went the holistic route. And I really needed to find a healer that resonated with me. And I did. And that's why I say Reiki was my saving grace at the time. But I studied many other healing modalities because I really wanted to get out of that funk. I was so low within myself. And I studied, drug and alcohol abuse, EFT, the emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping, which is very powerful too. It's amazing. I've seen some amazing results with that as well. This is quite some years ago. became a meditation teacher, studied holistic nutrition, angelic Reiki, aroma touch, aromatherapy. So quite a few modalities, because I just wanted to try everything. I was like a little SpongeBob, absorbing everything. And, so fast forward a few years later, and I became a Reiki master, and I started to teach Reiki as well.
Okay.
And meditative art, and people using, how to create a pendulum and how to use it at the time. And this was in the States, actually, in St. Petersburg in Florida.
Okay.
And you'd think, my life would have settled down, but there are always other experiences that we need to learn from. And so with my channeling, I went through another very dysfunctional relationship, and that was pretty bad because this person wouldn't leave me alone, constantly harassing me and moved 2 doors down from me. I sold my home to get away, bought another one, which was a bit of a money pit, but I was so exasperated. I was just screaming at the universe, saying, I cannot go on like this anymore. Why is this happening to me? And that's what I was saying. Why is this happening to me?
Sure.
Rather than thinking, why is it actually happening for me? There is a reason for it. And so I finally started to listen to the signs, becoming aware of the signs. And I did Kambo medicine, which is the frog medicine. It's a shamanic ceremony, and very, very powerful to me, where they burn either the shaman burns 4 points on your arm or your leg, in my case my leg, and puts the poison from the monkey tree frog, which happily croak in the Amazon forest because they don't get killed. They just the shaman just scrapes the poison off, and they put it on these 4 points. And it's very, very, very physical, because you purge, and that's what it is. It's very healing, emotionally, spiritually, but also physically. And it comes out everywhere. So you run to the toilet, the shaman helps you, you run to the toilet, and you also have to drink 2 liters of water. Very powerful for me. And I think that was like, the second, like I had that first batch of healing in 2009. This was on a completely different level. And I did it another 2 times, actually. You must think I'm a sadomasochist, but it was really powerful for me. And
Not
the
really,
first
no.
time,
I don't think of that as masochism. Because from what you're telling me, and just from what you guided us through earlier on, I imagine that as you were experiencing this, whatever the physical feeling of it was, you were feeling vibrational increase each time.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what was drawing you on.
Yes. And after that, I felt so much lighter within myself. But the first time I did it, it took like 4 hours. And the shaman said to me, Brigitta, do you know why it took so long? He's like, because your ego was battling so hard to stay put, because we're programmed a certain way. And I was so conditioned in everything that I did, the ego was like, I'm going to hold on. And my soul was like in the trunk of that car saying, oh, I want to get out. It's time for the ego to move aside. So, and then you have the mind chatter, of course, but it really, that was another turning point for me. And I made a whole bucket list of things that I wanted to do, like, skydiving, which I did because I have a real fear of heights.
Wow.
So I did that. I went.
You didn't want to just climb a bridge or something.
No, not climb a bridge. No. I started running for charity for cancer because I promised my stepdad in 2000 that I would, and I never got around to it. So 16 years later, I started running, and it just made me feel good. But 2 weeks after I'd returned from a Kambo session, it was like almost like my guides just nudged me out the door. You're going to this fair, which was like 5 minutes up the road at the time. And I did. And that's where I met my former mentor, Alania Starhog, who is an Akashic record healer. So this is someone who walks through past lives and heals these aspects. And that is really, I'm going to tell you, that was really powerful for me, because I didn't understand why my ex could not leave me alone in Florida. And that had to do with a past life where he actually poisoned me with an arsenic. And it's very strange because I had suffered from severe stomach issues. And that was kind of like the tail end, which you didn't know. I lost so much weight. I looked horrific. And it took me quite some time to get out of that funk. And it was basically my guide saying, well, all you need to do is ditch the guy, right? to move forward. But it's kind of hard. And so she changed that energy. And it was in the Middle Ages, by the way. And I was an influential woman. And he was a charlatan who just wanted to climb the social ladder. And when she healed that, the energies changed. So I changed, but his energy also changed, and he left me in peace. And he commenced sorting out his own life because he had this immense fear of losing me. But sometimes we just need, as I always say with relationships, if it doesn't work, then let one another go and take a deep bow in gratitude. But don't be bitter, because everyone in our lives is like a mirror reflection. We're all teachers of one another. At the end of the day, we're all here to walk one another back home to the light of ourselves. And the only way we're going to do that is by accepting our experiences and returning to that love for ourselves. And I always say, hug it out with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be compassionate. Learn to forgive yourself. These are what I call the key ingredients. And so I went to a workshop, and that's where I learned to channel. But everyone in that workshop, and it was pretty big group, they were all sitting in a circle, and I was sitting outside the circle because I always say I'm an antisocial shitbird. So I go outside.
Okay.
And Alania was doing this meditation, and she counted to 3. Okay. I was gone. Heaven knows where I went. And then she counted back from 3 to 1, like 20 minutes or half an hour later. And I was back in the room, and everyone was like, ooh, yeah, they got messages. They saw the ascended masters, the archangels, the guides, etc. Well, I saw jack diddly squat, nothing. I was sitting there, and I'm going to tell you now, I was really upset. And I was just wiping my tears away, and the snot, because I was like, well, where did I go? But I didn't say anything. I was just sitting there. And so then Alania was like, well, how she started was she just took a pad and a pen, and she said to the universe and her guide, she's like, I'm open and I'm ready to receive. Do you have a message for me? And so that was something that stuck in my head. And so after the class, boom, I ran out, hopped in my car, went home. And I actually sat down that night. And I think because I was so exasperated that my mind, I wasn't even thinking. And I sat down, and it just started to flow. And I was like, and I remember looking back, and I was like, oh my God, it's like old English, the thy, the thou, and it was, some of it rhymed. And I was like, oh my God, I was just amazed. I was just crying tears of joy. And I started doing this every single day. And then eventually, and I was still doing healing sessions, with Alania. And eventually I went back and I said, look, I've done all this. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. She's like, all you needed to do was unblock yourself and you could channel again. And I looked at her, I'm like, but I've never channeled before in this lifetime. And then she looked at me, she's like, what? And so, then, what I did as well, I put another spin on it because I had my cards, and I took out my Archangel deck, and I also had an Ascended Master deck by Doreen Virtue at the time. And I just shuffled the cards and picked, whatever card popped up. I would just sit with that, with whoever it was, and say, well, do you have a message for me? Can you tell me something about yourself? And surely enough, I was just, scribbling everything down.
Wow.
And that was really powerful for me, but it was also very self-healing because I asked many, many questions. And it was a complete process for me, and it really helped me at the time. And it's so easy for me to discern who I channel now. And I work a lot with the Ascended Master Saint Germain, which is all about, alchemy of the soul. So transformation of the human character from lead to gold, from that state of heaviness, the heaviness of our experiences, our unhealed experiences, and coming, accepting our experiences, healing, and turning the experience into, in a far more enlightened state. So because you let go, you become far freer within yourself, and you return more you return more to an authentic version of yourself. It's like peeling back the onion layers. Every time we go through an experience, we peel back that onion layer, we cry, and then we heal, and then we go through another experience until we kind of return to the source of who we are, to the most authentic version that we can become in this lifetime, because it takes many lifetimes to become enlightened. Buddha didn't become enlightened in one lifetime.
You described yourself earlier in your story as being like a chameleon.
Yes.
And at that point I think you were kind of expressing it as a way of saying that that's how you kind of adapted to these experiences you were going through.
Yep.
I get the impression that chameleon nature of yourself really played a major role later on. Am I missing that? It sounds to me like that would actually be a strength later on when you're trying to learn to receive these energies, to receive these messagings, to understand who you're getting the messages from, to get a sense of how the whole thing is working, because the chameleon message to me is that you adapt yourself to what's going on.
Yeah, but then you become more open, don't you?
Mm.
Yeah. So, and I'm always, just because I have one foot in the corporate world and one foot in the spiritual. Just because I'm a healer doesn't mean I don't go through stuff. It
Sure.
just means that I understand. I'm far more conscious of the fact that when I go through crap, that I need to handle it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, rather than remaining very programmed and doing what I've always done. Oh, I'm not like that anymore. So even like this year, for instance, I know 2023 has been very transformational for many, many people, with a lot of gunk, as I call it, or a lot of pain resurfacing. There is a reason for that, because we're shifting in consciousness, just like the planet Gaia is also shifting, and we need to shift with her. So everything that pops to the surface, don't whack-a-mole it. Don't keep whack-a-moling it, because it's going to come out somewhere. That dis-ease will come out somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's just asking to be healed. So that's really, it's very important. And one other thing I always say to people is, it doesn't matter how you heal or whatever journey you take, as long as it aligns with your spirit. Mm. Just because what I do, it's great. But it doesn't have to align with everyone.
Sure.
Do what feels right for you.
Which makes total sense. I mean, you mentioned, I think, that you are a tool in the toolbox.
Yes.
Which is a good description. And like any toolbox, the same tool isn't going to work for the same person. You have to find the tools that work for you. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that makes total sense to me. You said the stuff didn't have any kind of conscious connection. It has lots of conscious connection. I get the conscious connection is really good. But I'm really fascinated by the subconscious connections that are evident. Because, I mean, I could feel that part of it. When you were guiding us through that little session there, I could feel that. I didn't have a way to describe it other than what I tried to describe, that the light that I was experiencing. But it was there. It was evident. I couldn't tell you what it was. I couldn't tell you what it was saying. I couldn't tell you any of that. But it was there. There was no doubt it was there.
It's like your background is the cosmos, right? The universe, the stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's one thing that just popped in my head. I always say to people, we're all star seeds. We're all seedlings of the stars, and we're all pods in a bod, right? Because we've been encapsulated within the human body. And when I say human, right, human, you can split the word up and you get you, which is light, and then man. We're all wandering light men. We're all light men wandering the earth. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to get back to the light of ourselves because we've been so conditioned and we've layered ourselves with so many layers that that the light's been dimmed, and we have to unlayer ourselves or delayer ourselves through our experiences, through that duality here, to get back to that beautiful light within us.
You made reference to the background that I have on my screen here, because most listeners are just hearing audio. They don't see the video of it. But I have told people in the past, the reason I have that is it's a picture of outer space, basically, and it's to remind me that the universe has my back. That's why it's behind me. So when you're describing that's the way I phrase that. That background, that energy that goes in the back. My cat is going after me right now.
I can see.
That background is it's an energy unto itself, but it's also a reminder. It's a reminder that I guess I'll use the context of what we've been talking about. It's not all about the conscious. It's not all about the conscious, because that's what we engage in when we do a show, and we kind of have to. We're using human language and human constructs and so forth. So I mean, that's kind of what we have to do. But a large portion of what we're trying to explore here doesn't fit that construct. That's what the reminder is, that there's that other piece of it. Yeah. And I can't say that I grasp it. I can't say that I totally understand it. What I can say is that compared to 11 years ago when I started the podcast, I detect it. I feel it. I know it's there now. Even when my cat's going after me. You gotta stop that, buddy. I'm trying to do a show right now. But yeah, that's what the background means to me there. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're describing, what your experience has been. Your experience has been that of trying to tap into that other piece, that non-conscious piece, and learn from it and incorporate it into yourself and so forth. And you've done it really quite remarkably, I would say.
And we never stop learning. Never stop learning.
Now, you also wrote a book, which I guess it partly tells your story, and it also describes the stuff. The book is called Becoming. I can't even get my notes here because the cat's in the way. Becoming Authentically Me. Tell us a little bit about the book. Tell us about that.
So the first part is really about the shifting consciousness, about what's been happening in the last few years and why it's happened. I talk about the governments, because governments comes from the Latin governor and menti, which means mind control. I go back with the Ascended Master taught to the Second World War, why that happened. I go back to the beginning of time, to the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, also the Anunnaki. I love the Anunnaki. So I talk about them. And then the second part, and it's all infused. So there's a lot of questions, and I got the answers. But when I channel the many master teachers, they always have a sense of humor. Some people, when they channel them, they will channel them differently, but they really kind of take the Mickey out of life. And, you just gotta, we take life too seriously. And we should our experiences, we're here to experience life, through our life experiences. And as they say, life is like this game of cosmic evolution. And we merely, through this game of cosmic evolution, we merely level up through our experiences. We become more aware. We have a better understanding of life, unless we remain in that victimhood, so to speak. But the second part talks about my life and everything that I've been through. I do give some exercises, especially with the Ascended Master Saint Germain. I talk about the violet flame of transmutation, both through the Archangel Zadkiel and the Ascended Master Saint Germain. At the end of the day, as Saint Germain says, life is really simple, because it's all about a return to love, nothing more, nothing less. That's all it is. And wouldn't the world be a much more beautiful place when we come from a place of love, and rather than, when we live a heart-centered life, rather than an egocentric life where we remain selfish rather than being selfless, where we work with one another in harmony rather than in that feat of separation. It's always like I say, it's like we're in competition with one another. No, we're not in competition with one another. But that's been so ingrained within our society. And if we were to work together and we come from a place of love, the world would be a much more beautiful place. Maybe that's utopia, right? But maybe in 100 years, who knows, life will become better. But everything starts with us. If you want to make the world a better place, it starts with you.
Yeah, I agree with that part especially. I think my own view is that I can always, anytime I am willing to take the steps, I can always get to that place where the world is already a better place. So in other words, it's a choice. It's a choice that literally we make day to day, minute to minute, second by second. It's just usually we choose the other way. we keep choosing the other direction. Which I've always found to be fascinating. I feel it myself. I can sense in myself doing it. I can see it in others, and I think, wow, what is this? Is this like a mass psychosis or something? What's going on here? But we have this tendency, humans anyway. I think it's probably true for all energies, because I've also become more and more aware over time of just how energy is in everything, and everything is alive, and everything is part of that source. But I've become really aware of how we just, all we have to do is just shift our attention.
That's it.
That's it. That's the whole deal. Why is that so hard?
It's like people say, well, 3D to 5D, what does that mean? Very simple. It's a shift in consciousness. Complete shift in consciousness. I mean, I live in my own little cosmic bubble. I don't have a TV. I don't care for the media. I just don't. And I just...
It's probably better for you.
Yeah, it is better. Yeah, there's so much more to life. But, I mean, look at the whole social media aspect. It is... People cannot even do without their phone. It's like you rip away their arm, or you go to a restaurant. Everyone's with their companion, the phone. Why is that? In the 1980s, life was very different.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We just had a landline, and we still communicated with one another. Now everything's via text or whatever. It's just, yeah.
I
and we had to ask.
Yes.
We had to ask to use the...
Yeah. Very different experience. This guy, my cat will occasionally try to horn in on the conversation. He must be picking up this vibration, because he doesn't usually get this antsy. This is really abnormal for him. Yeah, this is abnormal. How often does he pop in, Anne-Marie? Like, once every 20 shows or something like that?
Occasionally. Yeah. Very occasionally.
And he can't stay out right now. He's like pawing at me and so forth. Like, okay, what are you trying to tell me, bud? He's trying to tell me something. I'm not sure exactly what. Anyway, okay. Well, first of all, this has been really cool. This has been really, really interesting. I have to say.
Hasn't
I
it?
think you agree, Anne-Marie, right?
Oh, without a doubt. I've loved it.
A couple things we do need to get from you before we part company. First of all, for somebody who wants to work with you, how do they find you?
They can find me on my website, powersoulhealing.com. I'm on Facebook, but I don't use it very much, so I'll leave that. I also got my YouTube channel, which is on the Power Soul Healing, and I'm on Instagram on the Universal Light Warriors.
Okay. All right. Secondly, I need to, I don't know if you noticed, but somebody was saying hello, named Zen Hacker. I don't know if that's somebody you're connected to, but I want to point that out.
Hello, Beth.
Then the third thing I wanted to do is I want to share with you something that I've made it a practice of sharing with our guests who come onto the program, because everybody who comes onto this program, they have a story like you have your story, and they went through their traumas and they had growth that came out of it, and they want to share because of the growth they experienced, which is wonderful. But what often happens is, and part of it's through social media, but through all the different interactions, like you come onto a podcast like this one, I'm sure you do other podcasts, you're putting out content, you're giving out ideas, you're sharing information with people that you've never met and you've never seen, never will meet, never will see. And we kind of skip over that part. And it occurred to me, we should stop skipping that part. So I make it a practice to say on behalf of those people that you've never met, that you've never seen, never will meet, never will see, you've been sharing this stuff to, you've been sharing your vibration, you're sharing your tools, you've been doing sessions, little mini sessions and so forth, and helping them in ways you never knew about. On their behalf, thank you for what you've been doing, because you're making a big difference in this life.
Yeah, I always say this, it's even if we inspire one person.
Yes.
Yeah. You're inspiring a lot more than one person. I know that for sure.
I forgot to say that in my book, I also touch on mental health, depression, addiction, reincarnation, past lives, but especially depression and mental health, which is channeled as well. So it's from a completely different point of view than from, say, that science aspect.
And I presume the book is available, all the usual suspects.
Yeah, Amazon.
Right?
It's on Amazon. Yeah.
Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
So Becoming Authentically Me is the book by Brigitta Visser. Brigitta, this has been great. Thank you so much. I mean, seriously, this has been really fun and really enlightening. And don't be surprised if you receive a private contact from me to do a session, because this is really...
Yeah, because that will be very tailored to you then.
Yeah. And that's the way to do it, I'm sure. Anne-Marie, what are your takeaways here?
How do you put that into words?
That's what I've been trying to figure out for the last hour.
It's not often, Brigitta, that we see Walt quite stumped, but you could just see his brain is going at 400 miles per hour and you're just trying to fix it. I think for me, what I take away from this kind of learning is just how much bigger everything is than what we see on the earth. So that there's just so much more going on. And if you can open your mind, see the beauty, find your own light language, that it's life-changing. So I just think, thank you for broadening us into something new. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I've loved being on the show. And I'll always say to people, look, whoever's listening, or whoever's watching, or whoever will watch the rerun, if you're not feeling great within yourself, just reach out to somebody.
Yeah, that's always good advice under any circumstances. Yeah, no doubt about that. All right. Well, this has been time well spent. We're so glad that you came to join us today, that you shared all this wonderful, really stuff that I can't even begin to summarize. And even Anne-Marie, who's really good at summarizing it, you did a good job, Anne-Marie, but I mean, that was a tough one. How do you summarize that? Wow. But it's so great. We really appreciate you spending the time with us, and we wish you all the best going forward with what you're doing. Really, really cool stuff. So thank you very much. And thank you, Anne-Marie. I love the fact that we were both kind of, to use the British term, we were both kind of gobsmacked by this particular session. Right? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, totally gobsmacked. I mean, I had heard of it, but just to experience that was, incredible. Gobsmacked, indeed.
Absolutely the word of the day. So thank you very much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.